What's going on, guys? So glad you came by. Hope everybody's having a great day. I know. You're looking at my shirt, right? Southern Logic. This is the first piece of clothing that I've got with my YouTube channel name on it. My fiance ordered it for me. I'm tickled about it. But it's not merch or anything like that. I'm not selling them. I am possibly going to be doing some deal with a hoodie company. They're supposed to be making me a hoodie now and sending it out. And we'll see how that looks. If it turns out good, you guys might be able to order you one that looks just as good. I know you're all here for the title of the video, right? Like, that's a pretty big thing to drop during a case with a gag order. You usually don't get information like this, but the problem is that we can't verify it. So, I mean, it's just an article being wrote by somebody, and the source is anonymous, and it could just be nothing, but it's People Magazine, and they usually have people close. They usually have people who can get information. That's what investigative journalism is all about. And like they said, they knew that he followed the three girls, Xana, Kaylee, and Maddie, already on Instagram. So to think that he might have slid into one of their DMs, that's not that far out of reach, right? Let's take a look at the People article. Let's see what they said about it, and then we'll discuss it. Accused Idaho killer Bryan Kohberger repeatedly messaged one of the victims on Instagram. He was persistent, an investigative source on the case tells People. 2 weeks before the slayings of the 4 University of Idaho students last November, the man now accused of killing them sent a series of messages to one of the victims on Instagram, an investigator familiar with the case tells People. So they're saying it's an investigator familiar with the case. We can't know who. There's a gag order. That investigator would get in trouble if anybody found out that he said anything. But apparently, according to People, an investigator close to the case has told him that he did send messages. He slid into one of them's DMs. Now, a lot of people have speculated on who that might be. A lot of people think it's Kaylee because, I mean, that's been who the target was all along, supposedly. I think it was Maddie. I'd be more akin to think that he slid into Maddie's DMs. But it could be Kaylee. It could be Xana, for all we know. They haven't told us. In late October, an account that authorities believe belonged to Bryan Kohberger sent a greeting to one of the female victims, the source says. When he didn't get a reply, he sent several more messages to her. He slid into one of the girls' DMs several times, but she didn't respond, the source tells People. Basically, it was just him saying, "Hey, how are you?" But he did it again and again. I have a beautiful fiance, and I'm lucky to have that beautiful fiance, but because I do, and because she owns an Instagram account, people slide into DMs constantly. Guys are constantly pushing in. Now, not so much these days because, it's a lot of family pictures and stuff, but when me and her first got together, there were constantly all different people trying to message, people we don't know, people from other states. That's just what happens to girls these days. And now you take a girl and she's out partying and having fun, just imagine how much that magnifies. So I wouldn't expect anything less than Maddie or Kaylee or Xana, all of them, to have a bunch of messages from random dudes that they don't know. So just because he messaged them doesn't mean that they knew each other, but it does tell us that he knew that they existed and he had something for one of them, right? Like, he wanted to talk to him. He was persistently messaging. He didn't just, I'm gonna shoot my shot. He messaged, she didn't respond. He messaged again, she didn't respond. He messaged again, she didn't respond. Now, you would think that if she knew him, like if they actually saw each other in public or had any mingling together whatsoever, that she would have responded at least to see what he wanted, right? To say hello. But no, she didn't respond. I don't believe she knew him. Now, when you get into the relationship dynamics and whether boyfriends are okay and all this, well, that's a whole nother can of worms. But we just have to assume that, basic life rules apply here, like a common understanding of what's expected out of a relationship. Don't go past this point, but you're not like locking people up from living their life. It's not that unbelievable that Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old PhD student, is sliding into the DMs of a 21-year-old college student 10 miles away. Seems logical to me, right? I mean, Maddie and Kaylee and Xana were all pretty girls. Everybody has different taste in people, but as far as the overall majority, the widespread mainstream, they fit the look, right? So it's completely understandable. Now, a lot of people want to say that Bryan's like an incel or something, right? And maybe. I get it. If he's running that Papa Roger account, then he probably is an incel. I'm not going to take that away. If that's his stuff, then he's probably an incel. But outside of that, like, I haven't really seen anything that would tell me. Back in the day, people said he was antisocial, got bullied, was overweight, but then they said in high school that he flipped a switch. He started boxing, he lost the weight, he became the bully. He completely turned into a different type of person. Now, that's right in that time frame where he was saying he was emotionless and didn't care about other people. So there's a lot of speculation that, hey, maybe something happened there too. Maybe he did something and that's what got his confidence up. But the main narrative that I'm trying to go with here is that he got his confidence up. He became more social. He became more likable. His coworkers said he had a hard time picking up on social cues, right? Like, he couldn't tell if you liked him back or not. He couldn't tell if you wanted to be his friend or not. So maybe that resulted in him saying some weird things or acting really weird. I mean, think about that. That would be pretty awkward if you couldn't tell if people liked you or how people responded to you. If you couldn't interpret that, it would get pretty weird, right? Like, you might say some crazy stuff if they see the relationship one way, you see it a different way. So, not giving no pass there, just saying, like, it makes sense. I don't see any reason to think, like, oh no, this is fake news, that he didn't slide into their DMs. We have every reason to believe that he probably did. Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were all stabbed to death in an off-campus rental home in Moscow, Idaho, on November 13th. A masked intruder entered the home and killed the 4 students with a fixed-blade knife. More than a month later, authorities arrested Kohberger, a 28-year-old graduate student and teaching assistant at Washington State University. He was charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of felony burglary. So, just giving you the backstory to everything that happened, we all know that, but still going to read it for anybody who might have missed that first part. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' Pennsylvania home on December the 30th. He waived his extradition to Idaho, meaning he voluntarily agreed to return to the state to face the charges against him. Now, that's when he waived his right to extradition to get brought back to Idaho, right? And people were saying, why would he do that? And he said he was doing it because he was eager to be exonerated, which in reality, there's no reason to fight it whatsoever. The law is the law. It's written as it's written. You can have your day in court, but all you're doing is delaying the process. And he said he was eager to be exonerated. Now, that's a weird choice of words, right? Like, exonerated means you were found guilty, and then it came out that you were not guilty. I don't know why he did that, but his lawyer said he was saying it as, his innocence. I guess maybe he's talking about a public exoneration. According to the probable cause affidavit obtained by People, one of the victim's surviving roommates says she saw the killer. The roommate described a figure clad in black clothing and a mask, who had walked past her as the person left the crime scene. The affidavit also alleged that Kohberger was linked to the crime scene from DNA and cell phone pings. Authorities remain tight-lipped about the alleged motive in the attack. They have not publicly discussed the relationship between Kohberger and the victims. Kohberger's now deleted Instagram account, which was viewed by People before it was removed, followed the accounts of Mogan, Gonzalez, and Kernodle, but there was no public interaction. It's unclear why Kohberger didn't get a response to his messages, but authorities say that the victim may have just missed them completely. She may not have seen them because they went into message requests, says the investigative source. Instagram users are not notified when they receive a message from someone they do not follow back, and the messages go into a special folder. We're still trying to determine how aware the victims were of his existence. Okay, so yeah, makes a lot of sense, right? Like, when you get messages from somebody that you don't follow, they just drop into your request. And then a lot of people do check their requests, though. But I can understand a 21-year-old partying college student is just getting an overflow in that inbox, especially a female. So Let's just remember that. So maybe she never even seen him to begin with, or maybe she saw him and just wasn't interested. But either way, it seems like if Bryan is our guy, then he took offense to it. And we have to be realistic here. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence that points directly to Bryan right now. Now, each and every piece of that evidence on its own can be torn to shreds. Like, they can nitpick everything and try to put doubt in a jury's mind, and that's where the risk goes. But at the end of the day, all of it comes together to make the case. And when all that comes together, it's pretty clear that Bryan has something going on here and is most likely the killer. Now, proved beyond a reasonable doubt? I don't know yet, not with what all we've been told. But with information like this, we know that the police do have more, right? If this is true, if all this is real, then the police have more. We don't have to rely on that little bit of touch DNA that is kind of sketchy sometimes. I mean, I know technology has come a long way, but if you don't think that the defense attorney is going to try to go against that touch DNA with everything they have, give some kind of reason, explanation, something that can put doubt, then you're out of your mind. That's their job. But it is there, and it is at the crime scene. And when you take the rest of the circumstantial evidence and you put it all together and you look at it as a whole picture, it looks like Bryan, right? My only question remains is, with the search warrant and all that at the apartment, what did that turn up? With the car and them checking the car and searching the car, what did that turn up? Have they found the weapon? They haven't told us they have, but they're not super quick to keep us updated. They're more worried about building that solid case, that solid foundation to take to court so they can make sure that they get the conviction, and they make sure that they can map out the roadmap that led to this so that they know everyone involved, what the roles were, how the story goes. And then they want to present that to a jury. Especially with the gag order in place, we're just going to get little bits and pieces of information. But hopefully the police have gathered a lot, and they know this is their guy, and they're ready to prove it in court. There's no indication that he was getting frustrated with her lack of response, the source adds, but he was definitely persistent. So they don't know if he got mad or not. Like, he didn't cuss her out or say something, why are you not answering me? You should reply, call her the B word, none of that stuff. He just continuously was like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? It's a little freaky because I can remember several cases where my fiance would show me like, hey, this guy's weird. He's done messaged me like 7 times and I'm going to block him. And I'm like, yeah, probably best to block him. So, like, that's creepy. Right? But that happens. Kohberger has not yet entered a plea. His next hearing isn't until June 26th. His attorney has not returned people's messages for comment. So we don't get to hear Kohberger's side until either his lawyer comes out and says something, which I don't even think she can because of the gag order, or until court when they present their case. So bear with me here because this is my only point all along. Of course, all the evidence, everything seems like it points directly to Kohberger, and there's probably a 90-95% chance that he's the guy, right? Like, but it's not 100%. It's not 100% that it's him alone. Could be somebody else. He could be not involved at all. As minuscule as the chance there is, there's the chance. Regardless of whether he really did it or not, can the state prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? Did he leave enough, or did he leave just enough where it's an O.J. Simpson type situation? And yeah, I mean, it looks like you did it. Common sense says you did it, but we don't have the physical proof to do it. Maybe they've got more conventional DNA, like blood. Maybe they found blood or some of the victim's DNA in his car or at his apartment. Maybe they found the murder weapon and get fingerprints and blood and DNA. There's so much they could have. All the phone records from all the apps, all the location pings and stuff on all the phones. They could build a super strong case that we don't even know about yet. I believe that he's definitely going to be found guilty. But there's always that chance. There's always that defense that comes through and works for that client. And that's really the only risk I see here at this point. If they do have this, if stuff like this is leaking out, this is not the crutch of their investigation. This is just another detail. That's it. This isn't some huge news. This is another detail to the investigation, and it tells us that, yeah, they probably have a lot more. We can't be sure, but common sense and logic points to that. And hey, we're all about that Southern logic, right? So let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to see more, hit that notification bell so you get notified anytime I post. Have a great day, and we'll see you later.